Hello, Janie. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Tell me if it's not, so that I can learn for next time. As promised, I'd like to just spend a couple of minutes just going through your resume that you sent over, and to provide some helpful tips and suggestions for how you could potentially improve this, and start getting more interviews. As a precursor, I'm just recovering from an illness, so excuse me if my voice is difficult to understand or makes it harder to kind of grasp. And I'm going to try our best, but excuse any pauses that may happen here, unfortunately, on that side. Right, so to start off, I would like to say that I think you've got a good grasp on the basics for how to write a resume, which is awesome. As I understand it correctly, you're in your final year, I'd presume, of your degree right now, and you're studying advertising and music. That's an interesting combination. I hope that you're enjoying it. Let me know what it's about. It seems like you've done some incredible work as well. So yeah, congrats on that. So the way that I tend to do these is I try to start by looking at what is the role that the individual is trying to apply for, and then take some kind of direction from there. We'll approach it section by section, but to start with, I am going to focus on the experience section first, because that is the area that most recruiters and employers focus on the most. Is typically what they use to determine whether or not you are the right fit for a role and whatnot. So, first thing that comes to mind for me is that I think it's amazing that you've done a number of internships during your studies, and this shows that you definitely have this skill set, as you've proven on at least 4 occasions here, to in professional employment from what it looks like to be in a marketing related role. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it does seem like you do have some deep experience with marketing, branding, designing. And as a marketer myself, so for context, I have been formally trained as a marketer, and well, not formally trained, self-taught per se. And I started out in SEO and content marketing, and then I've now moved over into product marketing in like the last 5 or 6 years. And so in most of the teams I've worked in, there's always been like a separate brand marketing department. And it seems like that is the direction where you would be headed in, from what I can tell right now. But yeah, push back on that with me. I completely understand if you want to go in a different direction. This is kind of what I'm seeing. And the skills that you've done as well. And there is a plethora of design related skills here. So the branding, creative, marketing side definitely seems like where you're headed. Maybe even product design. So you could go in several directions. Creative design, being in the branding team for a marketing department, whether it's at an agency or at a tech company or anywhere else for that matter. The reason why I mentioned this is because it's really helpful if you mention in the header section of your resume what you're looking to get into. So, for example, if you're looking to get into marketing, then it would be good to have the ideal title that you're looking to hold when you are applying for roles. So I'm just going to quickly see what we potentially have on the design front, the brand. So we do, but I think these are more experienced positions, but there is something that we can borrow here. So yeah, there is also employer branding too, which is it's separate to do with like using tools like Figma and whatnot. It's more so about how an employer positions themselves to employees. It's feel about an employer that they're potentially applying to. But the typical role that I would probably see that where you fall into would be like marketing. So that's what comes to mind right now. If I just look at marketing overall, just to see what else we do have, like technical roles, but I'm just seeing if there is anything here that kind of comes to mind for me. Yeah, I would definitely say Supersite is one organization where it's like you could potentially do this work. Joining an agency actually would be a really strong fit and something worth looking into. Or get in an associate position, which is the next level up from an intern role. Just some things for you to consider. I would look at a brand marketer as like the next kind of role that you're trying to get to. And that would then kind of enable you to, or you can call yourself a brand designer. So if you was applying for a role at Superside, I would definitely say you should call yourself a creative brand designer. And that kind of puts you in a place where you could potentially apply for some of these positions. I'm just going to see what we have under the creative tag and see come under Superside. on the creative side. And what about design? Right, so that again, they're quite senior from what I can tell here, but the graduate visual UI design, that sounds like a role that would be decent for you. This is based in, I'm not sure where Munich is, or is it France? I'm not sure. Depending on where you're based to apply for this role, and California, right? So this company, Canonical, probably isn't right for you, but there will be others that similar to you could potentially join, for sure. Another resume that we've done with somebody else, I'll just give you like some context into what you could potentially use there. So let's just take a look at that. Okay, I'm going to show you my resume instead. This is the one that's probably the most relevant to what you're doing. So as you can see here, I've specified, Director of Product Marketing, because those were, I guess, some of the roles that I was going for at the time when I was in my own job search. So in your case, and you've also got some lovely white space up here. So I would suggest moving your name to the top, and then underneath it, put in the role that you want to get into. The one thing that I've also noticed that's missing is a professional profile, which is basically like a summary of what you've done and what you're looking to get into in the future. So it's basically summing up your experience that you've got. So you've got some really great experience, and all you need to do is just sum it all up. You can even use AI. In this case, this is one application where I would say it makes sense to use AI, where you could get it to take everything you've got here and generate a professional statement or a summary of your resume, that you can then use, and you should place it underneath your name and underneath the let's say if you was to put in brand marketer or brand marketing manager or branding designer or whatnot as the role that you're going for. You should definitely include that summary directly underneath of your experience section, because as you're probably familiar, recruiters and hiring managers don't spend too much time per resume, typically 30 seconds, sometimes even less. And also, if you're not even appearing as a relevant resume when they are looking at applicants, then they might not even look at your resume at all. So that is the reality of the situation on that front. So yeah, I would suggest definitely doing those two things. The other thing that comes to mind for me too is I like the fact that you have bolded something, because that's really good. It's great that you've bolded some of the things that you've achieved. I think you should also bold this one, because having a 100% client satisfaction rate, I think, is incredibly impressive, and it's something that you should definitely be using more often throughout. So I would say that's definitely good. When it comes to the bullet points themselves, I would say that you should list the bullet points of most impact first, and the bullet points of least impact next. So the ones that showcase results should go at the top, should be first, rather than going at the bottom. So in most of yours, it seems like the ones where you actually have like some kind of metric or result, they seem to be bottom. Move them to the top. Again, it's the way that people read. People typically read in an F shape, which it seems like your resume is written in an F shape, which is great. But the next thing that needs to be done really is to reorganize the bullet points based on impact. So have the most impactful things first, followed by the least impactful things next. The other thing that I would suggest as well is to rewrite the bullet points that have results by showing the impact first, followed by what you did. So in this case, you said participated in all stages of email campaign development, from research and plan to execution. Reason my Emma achieved engagement from 100 to 700 readers per blast. Now, what would be better is if you put this metric at the beginning and said something like, you could say like engaged 100 to 700 email readers per week, or however often it was, by blah, 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 by doing all these components of the email campaign development. Another thing as well that could be really helpful is if you could potentially change this metric, instead of using like the number of readers that were sent the email, a more impactful metric could be if you could potentially show mention what the impact was on the downstream. So for example, how much revenue was generated, if any at all, how many tickets were sold or whatnot, would be a lot more helpful than just saying, you reached this many people. It's great, but if you're applying for roles where you're going to be competing with other people who may be slightly more experienced than you, you can showcase an advantage by mentioning the kind of downstream impact that you've had. So for sure, I would put this stuff front for each of those. So if you put those at the front for each of those where possible, and then do the explanation afterwards. Because then at least when a recruiter is looking at this, they can be like, you've done some really impressive things. The other thing that comes to mind as well is I think it's amazing, as I said earlier, that you've done 4 internships and you've also put the companies that you've worked at. I think the company that you worked is less important compared to the role that you did and what that role kind of compares to. So for example, your title for Music for All was a marketing intern, but when you look at the bullet points that you did, it seems like you was a social media manager / email marketing manager. And in other words, you could almost call this a lifecycle marketing manager role. But because it seemed like it was focused mainly on an initial blast and not many other emails, trying to get repeat customers and things like that, it'll come over and run. But because it seemed like it was mainly awareness driven, I think it's fine for you to mention that you was an email marketing manager. And so here's what I would do. I would put this Music for All, the names of each of the companies alongside in this line. So you've put a location, then I think you should have company, and then you can show the dates, which is fine. And then as you've got marketing intern here, I think what you should do is you should put in brackets what this role represents, what the day-to-day activities that you did. So these 2 bullet points, what professional job role out there does this best represent? So if this is more of an email marketing role, then put in brackets email marketing manager, or you can say email marketing, or even you could say brand marketing. I mean, when I think about this, it does seem very brand marketing. So you can even call this brand marketing manager in brackets. It's not to say that you held that role, but it's to showcase to employers this is the work that you did at these organizations is similar to if you was to join another company and do that role. And the reason why I ask is because unfortunately people do seem to look down on people who, let's say, have done internships, which I think is ridiculous. But recruiters are unfortunately biased. And I think it's great that you mentioned your internships for sure, and you've even specified that they were internships. But I think it's also important to highlight to the recruiter that just because you did an internship, it doesn't mean that the experiences that you did there is any less than what somebody else did via full-time work. So for this one, it's looking like it's a combination of either email marketing, or you can call it brand and email marketing manager, or brand and email marketing. Graphic design intern, well, that's obvious. It's kind of like graphic design for sure. Creative services. Let's see. Okay, so creative services intern is the title, but again, you'd need to ask yourself what if someone was doing this job full time and they were a senior person, what would that role be called? And that's what you should put in brackets and then have the company name below. Because then this at least means that there's more keywords on your resume. So then you should hopefully show up more when you are applying for roles inside of the ATS that recruiters use. So those are like the top things that I mentioned. So just to reiterate, I would move your name to the top. I would add in the name of the role that you really want. So if it's brand marketing, you call it brand marketing manager. So the way you need to approach your job search is approach your job search as if you have already done that work before. So if you want to get a brand marketing manager role, just call yourself a brand marketing manager. That's what you are, and put it there. It makes it easier for you to confidently speak about your work, and hopefully get more interviews. Then again, I would move the names of the employers down to this line. I would put in brackets what the actual name of the role would be if it was a full-time job and you had 5 years experience doing it, and put that in brackets. I would move the bullet points that have the most impactful features to the top, with the more day-to-day, what you did today kind of activities at the bottom. And then I would also rearrange the language and sentence structure so that you start with the data first and then showcase the projects afterwards. So that's kind of like top of mind for me at this stage. I also think designs of it. I think this is all cool. I don't think there's anything else you need to add here. For some other people, what I've recommended is that they split their resume into like two halves where they show the skills that they have, and then they kind of show like the impact of those of learning those skills, as an example. But other than that, I think you've got the basis for sure. And I would definitely say you should be trying to apply for as many marketing, but especially brand creative marketing type associate roles or brand designer roles, rather than trying to apply for something senior. But yeah, that being said, the rest seems good. You've got your contact information. You've got your portfolio. I should check out your portfolio as well. Because interestingly enough, we are looking. Well, we're not actively looking, but we are kind of looking for a brand designer for some of our stuff. We are distributed, so we've got some work to do with like the way that our product is set up right now and some of our emails and whatnot. We're actually looking for like a creative storyteller more so, who can like run social media, and they can design really impressive graphics. So, I mean, if it is of interest to you, feel free to like reach out and just let me know if you'd like to speak more about that. Maybe we can schedule an interview or something. But some of your stuff seems pretty nice. So yeah, but as we're a software company, I think I'll be looking from design experience with software stuff. But yeah, I hope that you found this somewhat helpful. And it's been great to review this. I think you've got an impressive resume. I think you've got some great skills. And I'm sure lots of employers will be chomping at the bit to hire you. But yeah, feel free to let me know what you think about what I've said today. Get back to me with your thoughts, and we'll take the conversation from there. And as a quick one point as well, like if you want us to do the whole resume rewrite for you, that's something that I can do. We don't list this publicly. We haven't started promoting it or anything. But, as you're only an intern, it wouldn't cost much. Like if you was a director or something, it would definitely cost a lot more money, but we're not at that. We're just trying to help people right now, just to help them get results. If that is of interest, let me know. Just that. But other than that, I think you've got a number of tips today that you can use to take this forward and hopefully help improve your chances of getting to interview. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for taking the time to listen to this. I've been rattled along for 21 and a half minutes now. But yeah, let me know if you've got any questions, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.